This is the Podcast Lab. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.
For another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're going to be looking at the evolution of fashion.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
I love this topic.
From 1800 to 2000.
Okay.
And to do that, we've got a really interesting mix of sources for this one.
Oh, cool.
We've got like fashion history websites, we've got in-depth articles, and we even found some interesting YouTube videos.
Oh, wow. So kind of like a mix of perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it really fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to uncover some pretty shocking things like Coco Chanel's past.
Oh, yeah.
And the riots that were sparked by Dior's new look.
Wow. I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah.
So fashion, it's not just about trends.
Right.
It's so much more. You
Yeah.
know, it's a reflection of society and technology, even politics.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we examine clothing throughout history,
Yeah.
we can gain a better insight into the cultural shifts and innovations of each era.
Okay, so before we get into the specifics, can you give us kind of a sense of the big picture? Like,
Sure.
What are the overarching themes that connect fashion over these 2 centuries?
One key theme is how clothing choices have always been a form of communication.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's signaling status,
Okay.
beliefs, aspirations.
Wow.
Yeah. Think back to the early 1800s
Yeah.
during the Georgian and Regency eras.
Like Jane Austen.
Exactly.
I love all those
Yes.
elegant empire waists and all those intricate details.
Yes, and you know those fashions,
Yeah.
they weren't just about looking good.
Right.
They were about projecting an image of wealth and power
Okay.
and reflecting that opulent court life of the time.
Oh, wow.
Even the fascination with classical Greek and Egyptian motifs that spoke to a desire for order and sophistication.
So it's really about communicating something with your clothing.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did fashion change as we moved into the Victorian era?
Well, with Queen Victoria's reign,
Okay.
we see the rise of industrialization playing a huge role. This is when the first sewing machines appeared.
Oh, wow.
And mass production began to take hold.
All right.
So suddenly fashion became more accessible to the middle classes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
So was this the beginning of ready-to-wear clothing?
Precisely.
Yeah.
This shift toward ready-made garments
Yeah.
changed fashion consumption forever.
Okay.
And it also led to the rise of the first couturiers.
Oh, wow.
Like Charles Worth,
Okay.
who established the concept of haute couture.
Wow. I didn't realize he was the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these designers created exclusive made-to-order pieces for the elite.
Okay. So it's interesting how these two, like, seemingly opposite trends,
Yes.
like mass production and haute couture,
Right.
emerged side by side.
Absolutely. And they both continued to shape the fashion landscape throughout the 19th century.
Okay.
The Victorian era also witnessed dramatic changes in silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, there were wide, bell-shaped skirts held out by crinolines,
Oh, yeah.
followed by the bustle.
Which accentuated the back of the skirt.
And then by the late 1800s,
Yes.
things started to streamline.
Right. Yes. During the naughty 90s,
Okay.
as they were called,
Yeah.
there was a growing fascination with a more slender S-shaped silhouette.
Oh,
Corsets became more prominent to achieve this look.
wow. So we've got a lot of changes happening in the 19th century.
We do.
We've got industrialization, the rise of ready-to-wear,
Right.
the emergence of couturiers evolving silhouettes. What happens as we enter the 20th century?
Well, the 20th century brought even more upheaval,
Oh, no.
with 2 world wars significantly impacting fashion.
Okay.
During wartime, practicality reigned supreme.
That makes sense.
Yeah, with women taking on new roles in society and needing clothing that reflected those changes.
It's so fascinating how these events that are happening in the world can have such a profound impact on something as like seemingly frivolous as fashion.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And the reaction to Christian Dior's new look in 1947
Okay.
perfectly illustrates this point.
Okay.
After years of wartime austerity, Dior's extravagant designs,
Yeah.
with their full skirts, cinched waists, and luxurious fabrics, were seen as a rejection
Yeah.
of the practical styles that had become the norm.
That makes sense.
Some women even attacked models wearing the new look.
Oh, my God.
They felt it was insensitive and wasteful
Okay, yeah.
in a time of economic hardship.
Wow. I had no idea fashion could evoke such strong reactions.
It shows that fashion is never just about aesthetics. It's deeply intertwined with social and political currents.
Right.
And speaking of social upheaval, we can't overlook the impact of youth culture in the mid-20th century.
Yeah, the rise of subcultures.
Exactly.
Like Teddy Boys, the mods, and the emergence of streetwear. How did these movements reshape the fashion landscape?
They challenged the established fashion houses and introduced a more bottom-up approach to trends.
Interesting.
The Teddy Boys, for example, emerged in post-war Britain and embraced Edwardian-inspired looks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, think grape jackets and velvet collars as a way to reclaim a sense of elegance and rebel against austerity.
So it's like they were looking to the past for inspiration.
Yes.
But reinterpreting it for their own time and their own context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you have the mods in the 1960s who are all about embracing modernity and consumerism with their sharp Italian suits and scooters. They meticulously styled their looks and were often early adopters of new trends and technologies.
And we can't forget about the punks.
Oh, yes, the punks.
Who arrived on the scene in the 1970s.
Yes.
With their DIY aesthetic.
Absolutely.
Total rejection of mainstream fashion. And a powerful statement against conformity in the establishment.
Exactly. The punks embraced ripped clothing safety pins, bold graphics, subverting traditional notions of beauty. Creating a look that was shocking and provocative.
Yeah.
Their influence on fashion is still felt today.
It's incredible how these subcultures, which often started as like fringe movements, have had such a lasting impact on the way we dress.
They demonstrate the power of fashion as a form of self-expression and how clothing can be used to challenge societal norms and signal belonging to a particular group.
Okay, so from the elegance of the early 1800s to the rebellious spirit of the mid-20th century, we've seen a lot of changes in fashion.
We have.
What stands out to you as like the most significant shift during this period?
I think the rise of youth culture and the democratization of fashion are truly remarkable for much of history. Fashion was dictated by a select few. The wealthy, the elite, the designers. But in the 20th century, young people began to create their own styles and trends, often outside the influence of traditional fashion houses.
So it became more collaborative and fluid.
Exactly. And the shift continues to shape the fashion landscape today, with social media and influencer culture playing a major role in how trends emerge and spread.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of influential figures. Our deep dive also uncovers some surprising details about the personal lives of iconic designers like Coco Chanel. Can you tell us more about that?
Chanel's story is fascinating, but it also includes some dark chapters. During World War II, she had a controversial relationship with a Nazi officer. And was accused of collaborating with the regime after the war. She went into exile for a time before eventually returning to the fashion world and rebuilding her empire.
It's hard to separate her incredible talent and contributions to fashion from her personal choices during that period.
Absolutely. And her story raises important questions about the role of artists and designers in society and the complexities of separating the art from the artist.
Well, let's delve deeper into the lives and legacies of these fashion titans after a quick break. We'll be back soon to explore the impact of figures like Christian Dior, Karl Lagerfeld, and more.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into the evolution of fashion. Before we went to break, we were discussing Coco Chanel's controversial past.
Yeah, a very complex legacy.
It's a stark reminder that the world of fashion isn't always glamorous.
Right. It's not all runways and champagne.
What other designer stories surprised you?
Well, Christian Dior's legacy is fascinating. He resurrected the French fashion industry after World War II.
Yeah, with the new look.
Exactly, with his new look. But his sudden death in 1957 created a void.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the pressure on his successors to maintain his vision.
It must have been immense.
It was.
Especially for someone like Yves Saint Laurent.
Oh, yes.
Who was so young.
I mean, only 21 years old.
Wow.
Thrust into the spotlight.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And how did he handle that?
Well, Saint Laurent's first collection for Dior was a hit,
Okay.
But he eventually left to establish his own label.
Okay.
And he later revolutionized women's wear.
Okay, how so?
By introducing elements of menswear into his designs.
Oh, interesting.
Like the iconic Le Smoking tuxedo suit.
Oh, yeah, I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
A classic.
Yeah, it's fascinating how designers kind of build on each other's work.
Right.
Pushing the boundaries.
That you do.
And redefining style with each new era.
Absolutely.
So speaking of pushing boundaries.
Yes.
Karl Lagerfeld's tenure at Chanel.
Oh, yes.
Was truly transformative.
He was a force of nature.
I mean, he took over as creative director in 1983.
Yeah.
And like completely revived the brand.
He did. How did he do that?
Well, he reinterpreted classic Chanel elements for a modern audience.
Okay.
And, he wasn't afraid to challenge conventions. Or incorporate elements of streetwear.
Wow, that was a bold move at the time.
It was very bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I read, Lagerfeld shows were legendary.
Oh, they were spectacular.
Yeah.
Often featuring elaborate sets and theatrical presentations.
Yeah, he understood that fashion is about more than just the clothes.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it's about creating an experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was a master of spectacle. And, knew how to generate buzz.
And his influence extended beyond Chanel, too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He headed Fendi for over 5 decades.
Oh!
And even launched his own eponymous label.
It's incredible how certain designers just become synonymous.
I know.
With a particular brand or aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's their personal vision.
Yeah.
It shapes the way we perceive an entire era of fashion.
Right.
But their impact wouldn't be as significant without the help of celebrities and the media, right? Absolutely not. Celebrity endorsements have always been crucial to fashion success.
Yeah, like think back to Princess Margaret.
Oh, yes.
Attending Dior's show at Blenheim Palace in 1954.
Such an iconic moment.
I mean, that event cemented Dior's status as like a global fashion force and brought immense publicity to the brand.
Yes.
And then you've got Jackie Kennedy.
Oh, yes.
Who became a style icon in the 1960s.
Right.
Often wearing Chanel suits and pillbox hats.
Yeah, her elegant and understated style was hugely influential.
It really was.
During that era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are great examples of how celebrities really create that sense of aspiration and desirability.
They do.
Around certain brands.
Yeah.
And like when you think about Marilyn Monroe's famous quote.
Oh, yes.
What do I wear in bed? Why, Chanel No. 5, of course. It demonstrates the power of celebrity.
Right.
To elevate like even a fragrance.
Yes.
Into a cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating how those connections between fashion and popular culture have just become even stronger with the rise of social media.
Oh, absolutely. Social media has democratized fashion in a way that was unimaginable even a few decades ago. Yeah.
I mean, now anyone with a smartphone can be a fashion influencer.
They can.
Sharing their style with the world. Impacting trends.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's true. We're no longer reliant on magazines or fashion shows to tell us what's in style.
Exactly.
We see fashion inspiration everywhere online.
We do.
From street style blogs to Instagram feeds to TikTok videos.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And brands are keenly aware of the shift.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're now courting social media stars.
Okay.
And collaborating with influencers to reach new audiences. The lines between high fashion and streetwear are blurring.
Yeah.
As luxury brands embrace elements of youth culture and street style.
Yeah, it feels like the fashion landscape is just constantly evolving.
It is.
It's hard to predict what trends will emerge next.
You never know.
But there's one issue that's impossible to ignore.
Yeah.
And that's the environmental impact of the fashion industry.
Right. The rise of fast fashion has come at a steep cost.
Yeah.
Our sources reveal a sobering picture of resource depletion, textile waste, and unethical labor practices.
It's a stark contrast to the craftsmanship and quality that define fashion for so much of history.
I know we've moved from a time when garments were cherished and repaired to a culture of disposability.
Right.
But thankfully, there's growing awareness of these issues.
Okay, good.
And a push for more sustainable practices within the industry.
So what are some of the potential solutions being explored?
One key area is the development of sustainable materials.
Okay.
So using recycled fabrics, biodegradable fibers, and exploring innovative new materials.
Like what?
Like those derived from mushrooms or pineapple leaves.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. And there's also a growing emphasis on circular economies. Where garments are designed to be recycled or repurposed.
At the end of their life cycle.
Yes.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But these solutions require a pretty significant shift.
They do.
In both consumer behavior and manufacturing processes.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just change the materials.
Right.
We need to rethink the entire system.
Yeah.
From how clothes are designed and produced to how they're consumed and disposed of.
It's a really complex issue.
It is very complex.
But it's encouraging to see designers, brands, and consumers starting to engage in these conversations and demanding change.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this episode.
We have.
From the opulence of the 19th century to the rise of subcultures and the challenges of sustainability.
It's a lot.
As we wrap up, is there one thing you'd like our listeners to reflect on?
I think it's important to remember that fashion is a powerful tool for self-expression and a reflection of our values. By understanding the history and complexities of the fashion industry, we can make more informed choices about the clothes we wear and the impact we have on the world.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up our deep dive into the evolution of fashion, let's take a quick look at what the future holds.
That's good.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've explored fashion from those elegant gowns of the 1800s all the way to the rise of fast fashion in the late 20th century.
Such a wild ride.
I know. Now let's step into the future. What trends and technologies are on the horizon? I'm ready for my virtual fashion show.
Well, get ready for a fusion of fashion and technology unlike anything we've seen before.
Okay.
We're talking about smart textiles and wearable tech that can do amazing things.
Like clothes that change color or adjust to the temperature. I've seen some glimpses of that, but it still kind of feels like science fiction to me.
It's becoming reality.
Wow.
Imagine fabrics that can track your fitness, monitor your health, or even display personalized messages. The possibilities are mind-boggling. We could even see clothes that seamlessly integrate with our digital lives.
That's incredible. But what about the potential for, like, personalization? Our sources mentioned 3D printing and AI as being like game changers in this area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Picture this. You design your own clothing or have it custom made to your exact measurements, all with a few clicks.
Wow.
No more struggling to find the perfect fit. This level of personalization could revolutionize how we shop and consume fashion.
It would be amazing to have clothes that truly reflect our individual styles and body types.
Right.
But can these technologies help create a more sustainable fashion industry? This seems like a huge challenge.
It's a crucial question.
Yeah.
3D printing, for example, could reduce waste by creating on-demand manufacturing.
Okay.
Imagine no more mass production of clothes that end up in landfills.
Right.
But it all comes down to the materials and processes used.
So we need to ensure that these advancements are implemented responsibly and don't just create new forms of waste. What about the environmental impact of AI?
That's a great point. AI can help optimize design processes, predict trends, and reduce overproduction.
Okay.
However, we need to consider the energy consumption of these powerful algorithms and ensure that they are developed and used in a way that minimizes their environmental footprint.
So it sounds like the key is to balance innovation with responsibility.
I think so.
We need to embrace these advancements, but use them wisely.
Absolutely.
What other factors do you think will shape the future of fashion?
Well, globalization and cultural exchange will continue to play a major role.
Okay.
We'll see a fusion of styles and influences from around the world, creating a more diverse and vibrant fashion landscape.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the potential for cross-cultural collaborations and the unique designs that could emerge.
Definitely.
What role do you see consumers playing in shaping the future of fashion?
Consumers are becoming more discerning and demanding transparency from brands. They want to know where their clothes are made, how they're made, and what impact they have on the environment and society.
So it's about making conscious choices and supporting brands that align with our values.
Exactly.
What about personal style in this ever-evolving world of fashion? Feels like trends are changing faster than ever, thanks to social media.
It's true. The pace of fashion has accelerated.
Yeah.
But instead of feeling overwhelmed, I think it's an opportunity to embrace our individuality.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment, mix and match, and find inspiration from diverse sources.
So it's about developing a sense of personal style that transcends fleeting trends.
Yes, I think so.
Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners as they navigate this exciting and sometimes overwhelming world of fashion?
Remember that fashion is a powerful form of self-expression. Have fun with it. Be curious, be creative, and don't be afraid to break the rules.
Yeah.
And most importantly, choose clothes that make you feel confident and comfortable in your own skin.
That's a great reminder. Thanks for taking us on this incredible journey through the past, present, and future of fashion.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been an eye-opening experience.
Fashion is a fascinating reflection of who we are and who we aspire to be.
Yeah.
It's a constantly evolving story, and I can't wait to see what the next chapter holds.
To our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of fashion.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Remember to stay curious. Explore your personal style and make choices that align with your values.
Until next time.
Until next time, stay stylish.